Let's move on to our picks against the spread for Week 10. Like I said, with the trade deadline this week, the question is about how that impacts the betting lines for this week, maybe even moving forward into future weeks. But last week, man, how did you do? Because I went 4-10. The trap week that we worried that would happen definitely happened, and we leaned into these favorites that just did not pan out. Luckily, Pittsburgh and the Tomlin ride-off spot at least got us a dub there. But what did you end up going last week?
I went 7-7.
Wow, you lucked out much
So
better than I did.
I did look out. I did well with the evening games. The evening games kind of saved me. I think that's where we differed. I think those were the games we picked mostly the same for the noon slate, but the evening games I think we differed, and I got lucky there. But yeah, I just keep finding ways to hover around 500 though. But I'm gonna change. While you start with the first one, I'm gonna start because I did this before the trade deadline, and I'm going to see how the lines have changed.
Gotcha.
So yeah, go ahead and start with the Raiders and Broncos.
Well, on that note, so when the spread moves from the opening to closing line away from a team, this is for sure happened with one team, one game on the docket this week. Over the last decade on trade deadline week, 62, 41, and 4 against the spread, those teams are when the line moves away from them, including 51 or 41, 25, and 3 against the spread when they are listed as underdogs. And when those teams have a winning percentage of 33% or less on the season entering the week, they are 15-9 against the spread. So let's start with Thursday night football. Raiders at the Broncos. To me, this is a terrible spot for the Raiders. Coming off an overtime game against the Jaguars, now having to play on short rest in Denver against the Broncos is not a great spot. Since the beginning of the 2024 season, Geno Smith has started 5 games in primetime. His teams are 1-4 straight up, 0-5 against the spread. And most of that was probably, with the Seattle Seahawks. So with the Raiders, I definitely don't like it. They just traded away Jacoby Myers. So yeah, it's not a great spot. I'm seeing this line at 9.5. I know I leaned into heavy favorites last week. I'm going to have to just run it back this week. The trend for the past few years is that favorites are dominating. Last week, I think, is more of the anomaly rather than the standard. So I will go Denver 9.5 on the spread.
It was fun to see Brock Bowers return. It made the Raiders offense more pleasant to watch.
Yep.
I will say that. But I have this consistent rule that I apply when a bad team comes off a win or a competitive loss where you looked decent, always bet against them the next week. And that's what I'm going to do, especially, like you said, they're on the road at Denver, short week. Denver not coming off a great performance either, but they did win. Yeah, Broncos -9.5, I will take. Okay, this spread was 5.5 earlier today. It's now gone to 6.5 in favor of the Colts. This is the Berlin game, so we are back in Europe this week and next week. So it's 6.5 now. This is another case of why a game I would never bet, and you know why? Because who are the Colts facing? The Atlanta Falcons, a team that you really have no idea which version of them shows up. Last week, they covered against the Patriots and were a missed extra point away from taking that game to overtime. I'm just going to go Falcons here because it's a Europe game, and we've kind of seen some of these heavier 6.5 isn't I wouldn't consider a heavy favorite, but it's a healthy favorite. We've seen them kind of play down. It's close and ugly, so that's what I'm going to go with. I see the Colts maybe winning this by a field goal or something. So Falcons at +6.5, mostly due to the Europe effect.
Falcons have been the most up and down team this season. And after having a pretty good game last week, like you said, in a loss, I think they'll once again come back down this week and have an awful performance. To me, the Colts are going to look to bounce back after what was a pretty humbling defeat from the Steelers on Sunday. Favorites have excelled in international games, and bigger public sides have actually had success in overseas matchups. So given a touchdown with the 6.5 point spread, I think I'll go with the Colts. I've only missed on one Colts game this whole year, so my betting on Colts games has been pretty good. So I think I'll take the Colts here at 6.5. Giants at the Bears. We're back in America for this one. Um, the Bears and Bengals played an all-time chaotic game last week where there was 8 total lead changes between the two teams. It never should have gotten to that point. The Bears had the game in hand. Um, I looked away from red zone, looked back, and my Bengals were about to win this one. But the Bears own the best turnover differential in the NFL this season at plus 13. And a large part of that is the 13 interceptions on defense, also the most in the NFL. Going up against a Giants team who is depleted offensively with no Neighbors, no Cam Scatterbo. Um, Even with Jackson Dart's performances, I've got to lean Bears here on what's a 3.5 point spread. Don't love the hook, but I'll take them on this one at home.
Yeah, Giants offense to me is just too limited right now. Dart's fun to watch, but on the road at Chicago, Bears are 2-1 this year at home against the spread. I see them moving to 3-1 at 3.5. I agree the hook's not fun to deal with, but I will risk it and take the Bears as well at -3.5. Okay, Bills at Dolphins. So we went with the Dolphins last week on Thursday night, and
That didn't work out.
That did not work out, and I'm going to be a fool again this week. I will take the Dolphins again at +9.5. My guess is you'll disagree with me, but the reason I'm doing this is because Buffalo is coming off big win against Kansas City at home. After this week, they're hosting Tampa Bay. I think they're playing Tampa Bay the next week. So this is one of those spots where you could just see them just playing a simple offense just to make sure they win, not doing anything risky to get anybody hurt. Dolphins backdoor cover it. It's at Miami. I don't know if you recall that Thursday night game between the Dolphins and Bills earlier in the year. Dolphins played pretty well in that game. They covered a big spread, and that was at Buffalo. So if you throw that in there too, I just think 9.5 is just a little too much for a Bills team that's coming off an emotional win.
Yeah, what I've learned in picking games against the spread is that you don't overreact to outcomes from the previous week. You don't overreact. Since 2003, dogs of 7 or more at home after losing by 20 plus points in their previous game are 69, 46, and 1. That's 60% against the spread, including 15 and 7 ATS over the last 5 years. Like you said, playing at home didn't help Tua last week, but when Tua is on a homestand, second straight home game or later, he is 10-2 straight up, 9-3 against the spread as the Dolphins starting QB, including 3-0 against the spread as an underdog. The Bills played a great game against KC, but they always do in the regular season. They get up for that game. That's like their Super Bowl every year. I'm banking on not seeing that same intensity going down to Miami. Bills also needed that win to keep them with the Patriots in the AFC East. To me, this one just doesn't mean as much for them. And it's like you said, the Dolphins played well in Buffalo, so I'd expect them to play as well or better at home in Miami. So I'm in agreement with you on here. It's a big spread too, which I love. 9.5. I'll definitely take that with Miami, and we'll double down this week on them and see if we can have what happened with Pittsburgh last week happen for us with Miami this week. Ravens at the Vikings. This one's an interesting one. So you have a Vikings team who were heavy underdogs against the Lions last week, end up pulling out the victory with that one, and the Ravens, like we just said, obliterating the Dolphins last week. The Ravens are 17-8 straight up, but just 11-14 against the spread when playing a game on extended rest with Lamar at QB. The Vikings came up with a massive upset over the Lions. Under Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings have played 5 total games directly after facing the Lions, and Minnesota is 0-5 against the spread, failing to cover by 11.9 points per game, losing the game outright by double digits the last 3 seasons. What I said about the Bills applies here as well. I don't think we will get the same fight from the Vikings that they gave to the Lions last week. Now that they're not playing someone that's in their division, so give me the Ravens. It is a 4.5 point spread, which is not a bad number for this game. Give me Lamar to take it to another NFC team.
Something else, this kind of does remind me of weeks 1 and 2, which were the other 2 games JJ McCarthy started. big win, big opening win against the Bears, divisional opponent, and then next week you're facing the Falcons at home, and you lay an absolute stinker. Here, yeah, big divisional win on the road. Now you're coming home to face a bird opponent again. So, however, I did go with the Vikings here. I still don't exactly trust the Ravens defense.
That's fair.
And it's 4.5 at home. Yeah, I just think that's if it was a 3 point, I would go Ravens, but 4.5, I see some value with the Vikings as home underdogs, especially by that much.
When I see 4.5, I think the books. When I see that number, I think the books just don't know which way to go with it. It's
Yeah.
just a number that they kind of land on that isn't around any real key number. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, and this seems like a good game to differ from you. Yeah, the odds makers don't know what to do, so we don't know what to do either. So I'll go Vikings plus 4.5. Also, the rare purple versus purple uniform matchup.
love
I
it.
want to see that usually once every 4 years. Okay, game of the week: Browns at Jets.
There's another one on this list that's very much like this one. So this is
Yeah. So this has shifted. When I did this earlier, it was Jets were 1.5 point favorites. Now, after the big moves the Jets made today, the Browns are now 2.5 point road favorites, and I had the Browns covering it at 1.5 at plus 1.5. So I'm going to also have them covering at minus 2.5. Both teams coming off a bye. So neither team gets an advantage with that. The only reason the Jets picked up their first win of the year 2 weeks ago was because they faced the Cincinnati defense, and that won't happen here because they're facing the Cleveland Browns defense with Myles Garrett. So, give me the Browns to cover at minus 2.
yeah. So what I said earlier about the line movement from the trade deadline, everyone's going to be down on the Jets this week with Sauce and Quinnen Williams out of there. On any extended prep time, the Browns are 5-11 against the spread under Stefanski, including 0-3 against the spread since the calendar turned to 2024. Their opponents have scored 107 points in the 3 games with Cleveland on extended prep. And in Justin Fields' career, he is 21, 29, and 1 against the spread, but when he faces a top-notch pass rush, like he will with Cleveland, one who has a defensive sack percentage of 4% or higher, Fields is 6-5 against the spread. With this line turning against the Jets, everyone down on them, just give me the plus 2.5 as my dirty dog of the week. I'm going to take the Jets here. Again, it's Dylan Gabriel, rookie, on the road. It's worked out for me before. We're going to just play this number as it's flipped against the Jets and pick the underdog here. Patriots at the Bucs. So this line is at 2.5, minus 2.5 in favor of the Buccaneers. Patriots are 7-2 straight up and 6-3 against the spread this season. They lead the AFC East. They're 2-0 in division, 4-0 straight up on the road. Maybe the best note for New England is the fact that they also have the easiest remaining strength of schedule by winning percentage, with their opponents holding a 35.8% winning percentage. It might just be time for the Patriot run to end here. They won last week, but allowed a comeback, which led to them not covering. They've won 6 consecutive games outright or are now underdogs against the Bucs this week. Since 2004, in Week 10 or later, teams on a 6+ game straight up win streak who are listed as underdogs are 27, 42, and 1 against the spread. Give me Baker to do his thing with whatever weapons he has available to him this week. Give me the Bucs at home. 2.5. Give me that hook. Beautiful number, I think. Win by a field goal, I'll take it.
Yeah, if it's under 3, that's great. Yes, I'm in agreement. Tampa's also coming off of a bye, so they've had a chance to get healthier, which is much needed. New England's not historically been the greatest team in Florida. We've seen that they beat the Dolphins earlier this year, but that was a close game, and the Dolphins are the Dolphins this year. Yeah, Tampa and Bills later this year, the only 2 games left for New England. Their opponents with winning records. Baltimore, they do play Baltimore. That could change if Ravens catch fire with Lamar coming back. But as of now, yeah, this is one of their only 2 remaining games against a team with a winning record. I actually did struggle a little bit because I feel like we've been in this. There's been situations like this in the past where a team's been, oh, they haven't beaten anybody, and then everyone's down on them, and then they go in there and prove everyone wrong. But I think New England's just won too many in a row yet, and Tampa coming off the much needed rest. I like them to cover that 2.5-point spread. Saints at the Panthers. The Panthers are surprisingly 5-4. I would usually not really care about that, but the fact that they went into Lambeau Field and got that done, I mean, that's you got to give them respect for that. I don't care how. I mean, the Packers played horrible. Jordan Love was awful, but still, going into that hostile environment and winning that's pretty cool. Having said that, if they were playing anybody else other than the Saints, I would absolutely fade the Panthers, not because they're coming off an emotional win. This is the perfect letdown game. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately for them, they are playing the Saints, who are terrible at home. I just can't. I think I said this last week. I just can't pick the Saints. Saints and Titans are just two teams I can't pick. Titans maybe now I can because they did cover last week, but Saints I just can't pick right now. So I'm going to take the Panthers at -5.5. Plus, with Bryce Young at QB, they've been really good at home. That one bad game they had at home against the Bills, that was with Andy Dalton starting. With Young, they've been good at home. So
yeah,
I'll take the Panthers at -5.5.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to go Saints here just because it's the Panthers with the 5.5-point spread. I don't love it. But it's like you said, if they were playing anybody else, look, the Saints haven't covered a spread that's been less than 2 scores in a long time. They've lost 10 straight up, with that. Plus 14.5 is the only 2 times that they've covered in the past 3 or 4 seasons. It's been pretty bad for the Saints, so I'm definitely going with you here with this one on the Panthers. Jaguars at the Texans. Oh gosh, so we have been painfully watching this Texans offense this season. The Texans red zone offense has been terrible. In 22 total trips inside the red zone this season, they have just 8 touchdowns for a 36.4% mark. Look, the AFC South is very different division this year. In 2024, underdogs in the AFC South went 11-1 against the spread. And between 2019 and 2024, they went 45-27 against the spread. Best of any division. But in 2025, dogs in the AFC South are 0-4 against the spread in these AFC South games. The only winless division in the NFL entering Week 10. So give me Houston again. As long as they hold the line as favorites, it's a 1.5-point spread. I'm going to double down this week. It didn't work out for me against Denver, but I'll trust in this defense to hold Jacksonville.
That will go to 1-4 because, as I mentioned earlier, Jacksonville just keeps finding these weird ways to win. It's going to be an ugly game to watch. Possibly no C.J. Stroud. It could be Davis Mills starting. I don't know what the over-under is, but I could see this being like a 13-10 game. Heck, when these two teams played earlier in the year, the score was 17-10, and that was with Lawrence and Stroud both playing. Yeah, Houston's defense still very good. Jaguars' defense is okay, but if they're facing Davis Mills, they'll be great. So it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'll just pick the team that's been winning more here. I'll take the Jaguars plus 1.5. Okay, evening slate. Cardinals at the Seahawks. Both teams coming off a double-digit primetime win on the road. And the Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites. I'm going to go Cardinals here. I hope it goes up to 7, and then I'd feel more confident in that. It's just that Seattle's kind of been known to tend to play down their competition at home under their coach, Mike McDonald, for some reason. And 6.5 is just too much for me. I expect them to win this, but the Seahawks have just, for some reason, not been as strong at home as they had been on the road. The Seahawks were dominant last week, but that was at Washington and they're home this week. So give me the Cardinals and Jacoby Brissett, who was named the starter for this game, at plus 6.5.
I mean, I've been telling you, I texted you during that Cowboy game. I think this team just looks better with Brissett at QB. He can see over the line. He's just more efficient in the passing game. And then, you said that Murray will give you the wow factor and give you these incredible plays, but I think just consistency is what the Cardinals need right now, and Brissett's been able to do it for them. I feel like I've been saying the home and road trends for the Seahawks for a few weeks now. We kind of know how it is for them on the road. They're incredible. They showed that going into Washington. But I'm in agreement with you here. I'm going with Cardinals at 6.5. I would love to get it up to 7. I don't know if it'll get there. The Seahawks have dominated the Cardinals over the last few years. 7-1 against the spread, 8-0 straight up since the calendar turned 2022. However, since the calendar flipped to 2021, 8 teams have had to make a trip to Seattle off short rest, like the Cardinals will do off Monday Night Football in Dallas. Amazingly enough, those 8 road teams are 7-1 straight up and against the spread against the Seahawks, with Carolina being Seattle's only win. Give me the Cardinals in this situation. I think it works out.
I think the last time we saw the Seahawks at home was against the Texans on Monday night. They did cover that, but if you recall, the Seahawks offense did everything they could to make sure they did not cover that. But they were playing the Houston offense, who was just as incompetent. So it was kind of a battle of who wanted to cover. So, yeah, you could say, well, they covered last time, but that was not a pretty game at all.
Yeah.
And so,
all right, another NFC West matchup. This one, an all-timer when it comes to coaching. Rams at the 49ers. This line is at 3.5 in favor of the Rams coming on the road. When these teams last met in week 5, the 49ers pulled off an upset as an 8.5-point underdog against the Rams. This coaching rivalry continues to tilt Kyle Shanahan's way. In 18 head-to-head matchups with Sean McVay, Shanahan holds an 11-7 record, both straight up and against the spread. And when McVay is listed as a favorite against Shanahan, he is just 4-7, and including 1-7 straight up in his last 8 games in this spot. Could definitely see the Rams making a surge late in this game, getting the victory, because the Rams have been the best second half team in football this season, going 7-1 against the spread in the second half. But I like the hook on this one. I'll take my tried and true 49ers, who have done me pretty well this season, just figuring out ways to win. Even if this ends close, I think this will be a good cover for them.
Yeah, I don't like the hook, but I'm fully on the Rams here. 9-2 against the spread in their last 11 games, and I really take the revenge factor here. Big. I could really.
I got that for the next game.
This game, I like this game. The next game we're gonna do, I mean, are my 2 favorite bets. Maybe in the next game after that too. But yeah, we'll differ here. I'll go Rams -3.5. Yeah, rematch of an NFC divisional playoff matchup last year, except the home field advantage is switched. Lions at Commanders. Lions are going to be 8.5-point favorites. Last I checked, they're facing Marcus Mariota at quarterback as Jaden Daniels went down with the arm injury. Yes, Lions played bad last week. They're playing a bad team without their quarterback. Give me the Lions at -8.5. Major bounce back spot here for Dan Campbell and his squad.
Ultimate revenge spot for Dan Campbell against a team who is injured and struggling. Last year, Lions lost outright in the playoffs as an 8.5-point favorite to Daniels and the Commanders. They're going to face the Commanders without Daniels. And since 2023, Lions have played 25 games where they lost outright to that opponent in their previous matchup. Detroit is 20-5 straight up and 19-6 against the spread in those games. This is just a great spot. Huge spread, but I like it in this spot with no Daniels.
Commanders defense is old and slow. Lions offense will be looking to get back. Yeah, this might go up too.
Yeah. All right. Steelers at the Chargers. This is Sunday Night Football. Steelers have struggled in primetime with Rodgers at QB. The Chargers are on a 5-game ATS win streak in night games with Herbert at QB, with Justin going 16-9 against the spread overall at night. We mentioned earlier the Joe Alt injury is significant because when Alt plays 50 snaps or more for the Chargers, LA is 14-5 straight up. When he either doesn't play or plays fewer than 50, they are 3-5 straight up. The line is at 3, and I'm going to go with it with the Chargers. I think Steelers are going to end up 9-8 probably to end the year again, and I think they just let's notch another loss into that column. I think Herbert can do enough even with a bad line. He can be heroic and do things that other quarterbacks can't. What Rodgers can't at this point in his career. So it's just a bet on Herbert at this point. and that number at 3 as long as it stays there.
If the Steelers' defensive line can do what they did last week to the Colts with T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, this is the easiest bet of the week. Steelers +3 because the Colts have been regarded as the best offensive line in football, and the Steelers' D-line just butchered them. Chargers is looking like consistently the worst offensive line in football. Herbert's not having much time to throw. So yeah, if that Steelers defense shows up, it's gonna get ugly for the Chargers.
It could,
but we don't know. It's unpredictable, like you said. Steelers will always just hover around 500. It is worth noting there will be several terrible towels at this game. This will be at Los Angeles, but this game has happened before. We've seen the Steelers go to LA before, and it's just invaded by Pittsburgh fans. So this will basically be a home game for the Steelers. I like the Steelers
and Vikings fans really travel well, especially when they go to LA.
Yeah. I'm going to go Steelers here. I'm just going to assume that their defense plays well for 2 weeks in a row. I think they found something last week, and I think it's sustainable for another week against a bad O-line. So I'll take the Steelers at +3. And finally, Monday Night Football, the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off of a bye week, are 2.5-point underdogs against the Green Bay Packers. So I'm now down to 1-7 in Packers games. So you don't have to listen to me here, but I like Philly off the bye here. It scares me that the Packers played a horrible game last week, so they could bounce back. But I feel like that's negated by Eagles having a week off to prepare for this. So I'll take the Eagles at +2.5. That's really all I got to say. Tucker Kraft torn ACL out for the year, so Jordan Love did lose one of his best weapons.
Yeah.
We'll see how that plays into it as well.
Yeah, even after Chiefs-Bills, this may be the game of the year, joining Patriots and Bucs this week, especially given the tight lines for both games. Eagles are underdogs, like you said. That doesn't happen often. Monday Night Football really hasn't been too kind to Philly in recent years since Hurts has been QB. But on the Packers side, losing Tucker Kraft is a major blow for this offense. Before the knee injury that ended his season, he accounted for 23.6% of the team's receiving yards, the highest share on the roster, and led the Packers with 11 red zone targets. Seeing Philly as an underdog, I love this. At 2.5, give me that. I think they'll win this game and really get the Packers on their heels when it comes to their division race. So yeah, give me the Philadelphia Eagles at +2.5. I'm in agreement with you there, and that'll wrap things up for our picks against the spread for Week 10. Got to start making some strides here with my picks. I'm down to 53% against the spread on the year, 71-64. Had a hot start, but I've definitely come back down to earth. But I am at profit because you need to be at 52.38% to make a profit. So I am right there on the cusp.
I'm close. I am close. I am 69-66 right now. So yeah, our margins have tightened.